Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Podcasting Mastered, the show where nerds talk about nerdy things. I'm Chelsea, and I'm here with Wade as always.
Sup?
If you're listening to this episode, we released it a day early for Halloween, so happy Halloween. And after this episode, we'll be back to our regularly scheduled episodes, being on every other Tuesday. But for now, it's our Halloween episode, and we wanted to just send off the month right with an extra spooky episode, I suppose. And what better way to do it than talk about one of the Master of Suspense's films, and that film would be Rear Window. Now, Wade, I have to ask, have you seen any other Hitchcock films before this one?
I have not. No. I knew who Alfred Hitchcock was. I knew what he did. I could have told you a list of his movies. I've just never seen any before this one.
Oh, okay. So this was quite a treat then.
It really was, and I didn't realize how dated the movie was when I watched it, and I think it was 1954 when it came out. Mm-hmm. I didn't know it was quite that old. And I was like, whoa, I wasn't prepared to watch a movie from the 50s. Like, wow, I don't do this every day. But I was super, surprised by how relevant everything felt, how, well it kept up with, storytelling. I should say kept up, because storytelling these days is a little, probably a little more lax and, not as subtle. But it still holds up so well as a film from the 50s, and I don't watch a lot of older films like that.
No, yeah, I was very curious because one of the movies that I remember watching, at least in school, was The Birds. So I was curious if you had ever seen that one.
I had not. Mm-mm.
Yeah. So that was probably the first Hitchcock film I watched, and I've seen a couple of the other bigger ones, and I've actually been watching quite a few this month, kind of celebrating October with some Hitchcock films because a lot of them are available on streaming, and have to get in the Hitchcock move by watching a bunch of new ones. Some of them I've seen before, and then of course this classic that I am also very excited to talk about. I've seen this one before, and it was such a delight to see again.
What other ones have you watched so far?
Let's see. So besides watching The Birds a long time ago, I've seen Vertigo, North by Northwest, Psycho. I'm blanking on what they're called right now. I was like, oh no, Saboteur, A Lady Vanishes, Rope, and Shadow of a Doubt. And some of those movies are even before this one. And some of those are actually in black and white.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I guess I can kind of go into a little bit briefly about Alfred Hitchcock, just to either for those who may not be entirely familiar with.
That's me. I'm that person.
It's all good. And so technically it's Sir Alfred Hitchcock.
Sir Alfred Hitchcock. I think I knew that.
Yep. So he was an English filmmaker, so he actually started making films in Europe and then eventually decided to start making them in the US. And it was kind of for, debatably more darker and more intense, and some of those are a lot more of the films that people are more familiar with, like Psycho and Rear Window, North by Northwest, and Vertigo and such like that. So, as I mentioned, I think briefly earlier, he is nicknamed the Master of Suspense. So he is very well known for having films clearly full of suspenseful moments. He really knows how to drag the audience along, and he just has a knack for telling great storytelling, both, visually. Obviously, film is a visual medium, but definitely there are some directors who really know how to use that to their advantage. But he also, does, I think personally, has a lot of great dialogue. I think it's pretty smartly written.
I agree on that, yeah. Just watching this movie alone, I can agree on that one.
Yeah, definitely. And then, so you mentioned, lots of tension and murder and deceit are a lot of big things his films are known for. What's pretty interesting and crazy to think about. So Alfred Hitchcock was making films for a long time. His career spans 6 decades, and he directed over 50 feature films.
That is ridiculous.
Not many directors can say that.
No, not at all.
No.
Jeez.
So definitely, if you just know Alfred Hitchcock by name, there's a reason, because he had been around in the industry for a very long time, and he made a very big impact on film. And two other little tidbits about him. So besides making films, he also at times had a TV show where he would do like little, like Alfred Hitchcock Presents and have little short stories told and
that's cool.
be the host of his episodes. And he also loved to actually have cameos in his movies. So you'll see him, he's like the Stan Lee. Got to be in all of with all of his funny cameos, which I looked up later. I actually missed his cameo in this film.
I was thinking, I was like, wait, I wonder if he was in this one and I just didn't catch him.
Yeah, so apparently he was fixing one of the neighbors' clocks, which I think it was the musician. I think he had a clock being worked on at one point, the composer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
But yeah, that's a little bit about Hitchcock. Very little brief description about who he is and his films. But now we can kind of dive into a little bit of our topic, the movie that is our topic for today, which, yes, is Rear Window, which, as we mentioned before, this is definitely an older film, but I think, yes, still definitely holds up really well. It came out in 1954, and it's just a little under 2 hours, so you don't have to spend forever watching this movie.
And it didn't feel like 2 hours at all. It
sure.
flies by, which is crazy because the vast majority of this movie takes place in one room.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Which is ridiculous. And so the setting, I guess, we have our main actor. He's like a war photographer, but he's like broken his leg. He's in a cast in a wheelchair, and he's put up in this room, like by his company, the newspaper or magazine people. And he has to just kind of like live there throughout his whole period of time where he's in this cast. And how does he spend his time, Chelsea?
Oh, just apparently like every person who gets bored without technology, you start looking out the window and spying on your neighbors.
He has and they have huge windows. Everybody has
humongo
windows. You can see like into like their complete house almost.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's crazy. Because like they share like a courtyard. Everybody's like back window kind of like shares a courtyard. And so everybody can kind of see into everybody's houses.
Mm-hmm.
But he likes to just kind of watch their daily lives, and like at the beginning he's creating stories for them, but then he learns more about them, so he's actually following like and wondering what they're doing, and some of it is a little more intruding I suppose than others. Like he's got a few like single women who live across from him, and he spends time gandering into their rooms and stuff like that.
Oh, and you can't forget there's the newlyweds that move into that new place with the blinds always down.
And he's always staring really hard at the blind.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Well, and I think with the main character, because he's been in, I think it establishes that he had been put up in there for quite a few weeks, but this is his final week, and he's getting restless, so then he's definitely really just bored and checking out all his neighbors and what they're all up to.
And you kind of get to know the neighbors a lot.
Yeah.
Like you know a couple of their names, but like he has like their own name that he's given them. Mm-hmm. But like halfway through the movie, you realize like, because at first you're like judging him, like, dude, why are you looking out through people's windows? Like, stop that. And even other characters are like, that's pervy behavior. You should stop that. And he's like, what else am I supposed to do? I'm just a bored guy being bored. Like, it's fine. Like, they don't know. But then halfway through, like once the mystery sets in, you find yourself, you know what? It's okay that we're doing this. We're just watching. It's okay. And it's just kind of it's crazy how fast you realize, oh crud, like, like I'm suddenly okay with this.
Yeah.
But then so are the other characters in the movie too, though.
That's so
the ones
true.
who are chastising him.
Yeah, and then they become invested in everything. And I think that it's so funny, and that's something that Hitchcock does really well. And I think there's possibly an interview or something where he says like that he knew what kind of movie he was making because this is a movie about somebody who's looking in on his neighbors, and that's frowned upon. Normal people wouldn't do that, but hey, you're just as interested in as the main character is, and that shows that people really.
What does that say?
Yeah.
and like, okay, so the nurse. I think the nurse was like my favorite character. It's like the magazine's insurance hires just like a nurse to come and take care of him every day, just to do little things around the house, and then she's there, and then she leaves. But the whole time that she's there, she is like chastising this man about, one, staring into people's houses, because that's creepy, don't do it. Why aren't you married? You're like 45 years old. You have a great like lady friend. Like, go marry her. Don't be stupid. She's obviously too perfect for you, so don't blow her off. But then like the second that he has proof that something horrible has happened, she's like there with popcorn going, "Oh my gosh." Like, that's crazy. And they're like fan theorizing everything going on together. It's crazy. And then like he pulls his girlfriend in on that mess, and she's there with like drinks and popcorn. She's like, we're gonna solve this mystery. Like, I'm the main character now.
No, for real.
Dang,
Yeah.
girl.
No, for real. Yeah, dang girl. Because both those girls, they're like, well, you're stuck over here. We're gonna go investigate.
Yeah, like why just look? Why not go rummage through his apartment? Let's go do that. Let's go steal his mail. Let's go dig up his flowers that he obviously buried his dead wife under. Like.
Yeah. Like, and you're still just watching. You're just still staying in that apartment room, which is just crazy, which just adds more to the suspense, because you're looking from his point of view and not from their point of view. So you see everything else going around, like, on while they're sneaking around and doing crazy
It
things.
never follows another character anywhere. You only see what the main character can see from his window.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
And speaking of like him looking out the window, so what's really interesting about, it's an actual set. So they didn't actually film like an apartment building or whatever. They actually built this whole kind of like apartment complex like on a soundstage. And so they like built these specific rooms for everybody to be in. And I also read too that Hitchcock basically stayed in the room that our main character did, which his name is Jeff Jeffries, our photographer character, who is played by Jimmy Stewart. And so he apparently he made the rest of the cast wear earpieces or something. And so he would tell them to like do things. And that's how he would direct them, because he never left the room that our main character is sitting in. And that's like what the camera was.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's like quite genius, actually.
It's great.
Considering like how well everybody else acts like when they're like in their homes, like doing whatever they're supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I don't know, there's quite a bit to be said about this movie, but I think it's pretty cool because you have like, it's always good with multiple movies in general to have kind of like, like an A and a B story. Like, you have the story mostly going out with the characters, and then like the journey or whatever like they're taking on. Like they might have like an internal struggle with like other things going on. But this one's really crazy because not only are we looking at all the neighbors, but like we can get like kind of, we get to know a lot more about these characters, and they all have their own storylines.
For sure. Like Miss Lonely Heart.
Mm-hmm.
I was during those last final scenes,
yes.
I was on my couch frantic because he's like, I'm gonna help her, and then oh my gosh, there's other things happening, and he takes his contention completely away from her, and I'm like, no, I'm like screaming like at the TV, like, no, you gotta remember Miss Lonely Heart, like
call the cops, call the
cops.
What
are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Yeah. And thankfully though, everything worked out. It's okay.
Yeah.
But I did panic quite a bit in that one moment, and I don't have like physical reactions to movies a whole lot, unless I'm in a theater. I let myself loose in theaters. I'm a menace. But but like on my couch though, like I was not reserved at all. I was like, he had me in that moment. He knew what he was doing.
For real. I feel like there's so many of those moments, because even the quirky couple that sleeps on the mattress out on their like,
I loved them. And then it started raining, and I was like, you dumb bitches, what are you doing?
Yeah. I know, I was like, that's why you don't sleep outside.
Yeah, right, that's what you get.
Yeah. But it was so funny because they're the ones that had the dog, and so they would have it, and they would put the dog in the basket and like
lower the poor thing down like 3 floors.
Yeah, to let it go.
So it could like use the bathroom and stuff, and it would just get back in the basket, and they would just raise it back up, like no big deal.
Yeah. Let's see who else. And then we also talked about like that composer. He just struggling to write something, just kept having parties.
Mm-hmm. But his music like Like, plays parts in the movie, like, two characters are having a conversation, and he's over there practicing his piano, writing his song, and then, like, what he's playing will have a full effect on the conversation that the two main characters are having.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's how everything just kind of, like, this whole sense of community and stuff wraps itself together is so cool.
Yeah, no, you're right. I forgot about that part of the music because most, like, the rest of the film, like, there's really not any other music, really. It's just kind of just the ambiance.
Yeah.
It just adds even more to just really feeling like you're watching these neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
Like, these are your neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
And it really, yes, this film really sucks you in, makes you a part of it.
If I could go back and watch Rear Window for the first time again, I absolutely would.
Yes.
Like, this movie holds up. It's crazy how good it holds up.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, man.
Yeah, no, this is, yeah. I mean, because I've seen a couple of Hitchcock's films, but no, this is by far, this is probably in my top 2 favorites of his that I've seen so far. It's just, it sticks with me the most because, little side note, so the first time I watched this movie, it was when Amy and I were watching the American Film Institute's top 100 films. And so there are quite a few of Hitchcock's films in that list. And where this one was ranked really shocked me. And I was like, no. This is, like, definitely by far one of his better films. And it should be really high up on the list. And I just remember that just in general was one of the films that really stuck out to me. Just because, yeah, like we keep saying, like, this movie holds up really well. Like, if you've never seen this movie, definitely recommend watching it.
And it's a movie for anybody. Like, it's more of like a mystery thriller kind of deal, but it's not like an action movie though. Mm-mm. There's none of that. But it's for anybody. Anybody can get that sense of community and mystery in it. So, like, if you haven't seen it, coming from somebody who's had never seen a Hitchcock film before, go watch it. What are you doing?
Yes. Oh, I do want to mention a little bit more of the writing because just I am totally blanking out who the writer is, but the way he writes his films, like, it's just, the writing just still holds up today. You can really relate to the conversations. It's very modern in so many ways. In some ways, I think it's even super modern for that time. So it's very surprising in some ways. But talking about Jeffrey's girlfriend, Lisa, who is played by Grace Kelly, and how, her character initially comes off as like, oh, she's just the ritzy, fashion lady, wears all the greatest clothes, there's not much to her.
And then you're wrong.
Yeah.
And then you're absolutely wrong. But I think that's more of a, like, when you're introduced to her, you're kind of made to, like, take Jeffrey's viewpoint on her. Mm-hmm. Where, like, yes, she's perfect, and she's beautiful, and she has money, and things like that. But, like, she wouldn't fit in his crazy, adventurous world of war photography and being in unsafe places and having to, like, eat stuff that you wouldn't ever even look at if it wasn't food, and stuff like that. But, like, she's just in love with the guy, and she just wants to find a way to, like, make that work for each other, and she pulls through. And it's one of those things, I think, where you're meant to immediately take his side of it. Mm-hmm. In a weird way, like, because you don't know her yet at all.
Yeah.
But then, like, she shows up, and then she shows up again, and every time she shows up, she adds another layer to herself. She brings a little bit more to the table that, like, he wasn't seeing before. Mm-hmm. Because now they're in this situation where, like, they're trying to solve this mystery, and you see how resourceful she is, how witty and quick-tempered and stuff like that. Like, she's ready to go. And then he realizes how much of a fool he was at the end, like, that he didn't think that they were, like, worthy of each other in that way. So it's a really weird, like, romantic situation, because the movie's not a romance at all. Mm-hmm. But they put a story in there, and it works really well when wrapped around the rest of the plots and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. Just, like, all their banter, just back and forth all the time, and just,
That's
yeah.
some good banter.
Oh, yes, definitely. And, yeah, I think you made a good point. Like, Jeffrey's, like, I think he just, like, simplistically thinks just, like, she's just a woman.
It was the 1950s.
Yeah, I should probably marry one, but she just won't fit in. She's just, yeah, continuously, like, yeah, like you said, like, she's madly in love with him, like, give me a chance. Like, what can I do? Tell me how you live. I want to try. And he's like, no. Mm-hmm. But I love it when it's scandalous. She came to spend the night, and she's like, look at me, I packed up my little suitcase. Yeah.
Oh, I loved her little suitcase.
Yes.
She pulls her pajamas out of the suitcase, and he's just like, okay.
Yeah, and she's just like, look, I can pack some light too.
I love that.
I do too. And I also love how we mentioned before that, she's such a go-getter once they really get wrapped up in this mystery, and she's just like, I'll go right over there. I'll go check for evidence. And he's like, no, I wouldn't do that if I were you. And she's like, bye.
Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Walk out and stop
yeah.
me? Although those were some pretty tense moments there at the end. In that one segment. Man, and I knew that was going to happen. Like, you know it's going to happen eventually. But they played it off really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just like one intense moment after the next towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot, but it's great. It's kind of all I have to say about it. It's great.
We covered a lot of really good things about the movie. So, listeners, why are you still not watching it? What are you doing with your life?
Yes. Well, and if you're wondering where to watch this movie, it's currently streaming on Peacock. And if you don't have access to Peacock, you can also rent it and stream it on various places such as Prime, Vudu, Redbox, and the YouTube and the like. So there's plenty of places you can find it. Definitely worth it.
Mm-hmm. And it's absolutely worth it.
Okay, well, listeners, we hope you enjoyed our little dive into Rear Window. We tried not to give too many things away, just kind of talking about it and definitely giving you a chance to watch it if you haven't already. We hope you also just enjoyed our month of Halloween, our fun little episodes. If you want us to talk about a future Hitchcock film or have any ideas for a future Halloween episode, please be sure to share that with us, and we would love to talk about whatever you guys are interested in hearing from us. As always, please be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast so you don't miss out on our next episode. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at PodDemastered, and feel free to send us an email at demasteredpodcast@gmail.com. And once again, thanks so much for listening to this episode or any of our Halloween episodes, and we hope you'll tune into our next episode.
And have a happy Halloween.
Yes.